this right here.
That's the SSL monster. Okay, so we're here with Rob Eaton.
That's correct.
Robert, right?
Well, I go by Rob.
Okay.
Leave the Robert off. Too
And
formal.
you're can I say you're a top engineer?
Well,
You like it?
I don't like to call myself. Well, it's hard. I mean,
You work with everybody, right?
I've worked with just about everybody.
Madonna,
Madonna,
Eric Clapton.
Clapton.
You continue. Just name a few.
Eric Clapton, Bruce Springsteen, David Crosby, a band from England, Marillion, who might be known in Europe, Mike and the Mechanics, Mike Rutherford from Genesis. It's hard to say. I'm only remember the last job I do. Yeah, so this is.
How old are you?
I'm 31.
31?
31.
He's a young man.
Just turned 31.
So, you work like in all kinds of studios with all kinds of people?
Well, I was on staff at a studio in New York called the Power Station, which is around the corner from here. And I was on staff there for about 7 years, which is quite a long time for being a staff.
Second engineer and everything?
Well, I was a second for about the first 2 years, and then I graduated into the engineering chair. And was the chief engineer the last 2 years I was there. And I left there back in 1989. So I've been on the road independently since then, which has been great, because the minute you go independent, it's just
so
much better.
One day, Pat Metini calls you and tells you there's this project, right?
That's right. It's funny because Pat called. I mean, I've worked with Pat on every record he's done since 1985. I mean, we've known each other a while now, and he has never done anything but his own music. He's always done Pat Metheny or his own trios or his own work. He's never produced someone else because he's never really found anybody he liked or felt that was musically hip enough to do. And he calls me and he says, there's this chick. First he plays me a tape. And he says, what do you think of this girl? And it was a tape of Achinom from Israel, I think a live tape.
Yeah.
And I said, well, it was not a very good quality cassette. And of course, being an engineer, I want to, I'm like, well, it's hard to tell because it's distorted. But you could still tell she was great. And I said, she's great. And he said, do you think I should do something with her? And I said, sure. He said, she sounds fantastic. So another 6 months rolled by, and he finally says, okay, we're going to do a couple of days in the studio. We're going to record the whole record in 2 days. It's going to be real low budget. We're going to do it all in 2 days live, 4 pieces. That's it.
You like the idea? 2 days?
Sure, that's great. How often do you record a record in 2 days? Never. So I said, okay, that's great. So we went into the studio and we did 2 days of intensive recording. Actually, it turned into more like 2.5 days. But we recorded 11 songs, and Achinom sung live vocals with the band playing live, and she sung better than I've ever heard anybody sing. And she was on tune more than anybody's ever been on tune. I mean, right from the start. As a matter of fact, on the album, when it comes out, probably 75% of the singing is from those sessions.
The original recording.
The original
with the
recording.
others.
And it came out so good that Pat decided he wanted to sort of produce it more and make it more of a production. So we've been in all month now. It went from 2 days to 2 months. So we're talking more money, but it's worth it. She's a great artist. She's smart. She's ambitious, and from my experience, the only other woman who's been as ambitious as she has been Madonna, in terms of what she wants, what she strives for, and what she won't settle for. She'll settle for only what she wants, and she knows what she wants.
What do you think about the material itself? I mean, is it different from what you know and what you worked with originally, in America?
Well, it's very original. It's very song-oriented, very melodic, and I think Gil has a lot to do with that. I think she comes up with the initial melodies and her lyric content, and Gil sort of orchestrates around that. So the songs are very concise. They're not long. There's, what the industry would call commercial length, between 3.5 and 4.5 minutes long, and very fulfilling. It has everything you need. It has the melody, it has the verses, the choruses, the bridges. It's just concise. It doesn't overextend itself, but yet it's not leaving you short at the same time. So the songs are very good, very much reminiscent of early Joni Mitchell, where she was, song oriented, very high energy music.
But do you?
Excuse me, you're saying tapes.
Tapes.
The old Studer. Those aren't as good as the new ones. I mean, the old ones are better. The old Studer 800s.
Like the metal ones?
Well, they were big. They were not the ones that were tall and thin, but the 800s.
I know what you mean. Yeah, fat ones.
Fat ones. Yeah.
Expensive ones.
Is that a digital camera or is that an analog camera?
That's it. So what I wanted to ask you is about the difference between in the songs themselves. Do you hear any different melodies because of the background, or would it, if it comes for an American, it will sound the same?
Well, I think there's a very ethnic feel to a lot of her music. I mean, she can't help it. I mean, she grew up in New York, but yet she's really Israeli. She really loves Israel, and that's where that's where her heart is.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of her music and a lot of what she writes, which comes from her heart, is really Israeli. And we've sort of tried to get the best cross point between commercial Americanism, commercial worldwide use, and keeping that ethnic feel. So there's a lot of ethnic moments sort of dispersed among the songs. But I wouldn't say it's a very, totally ethnic record, but it's very much, you can definitely tell that she's, Israeli, and, her percussion playing and her vocal idioms are very much Israeli.
Did you hear any Israeli music before that?
Not really. Not much Israeli. Some Egyptian, but more Amza Eldin and sort of tar playing percussion music. Not much Israeli. You don't get much of that in the States.
No.
Yeah.
Just
you get a lot of crap in the States, but excuse
sure.
me. But you can't.
You get the Hasidic
some-
Havana Gilas, what we call it. Never mind. Now, regarding the actual recording and sound and production, what is the goal you wanted to achieve?
What's the goal? To capture her. Anytime you go into a recording, you try to capture the artist at their best, and sometimes it never happens. Sometimes you get a little bit of it. Sometimes you get hints of it. With her, I feel we've gotten a lot. We've really captured a lot of what she's all about, and there's moments where you get the chills up the spine and your hairs and your arms stick out, and every time it comes by, you get that same feeling. So it's just, you've captured it, and we've got a lot of that with her. So we've really got, in terms of recording her, we've really got Achinoam the best.
Now, the combination of those three people, Asher, Gili, and Achinoam, how is it working with them? I mean, they're a special team, aren't
It's
they?
a very special team, and it's like a family with those three. I mean, it's really tough to get in there because they're so tight together, to sort of break into that and sort of give another viewpoint becomes slightly difficult at times. But I think that those sort of situations create the best endings. You get a better response with the music, you get a better performance out of somebody, and Asher's really sort of held them all together. And Gil, he's a perfectionist, and he wants his parts to be just right. And there's been some give and take on all sides. Pat Metheny's sort of, had his viewpoint, and Gil's had his, and everybody, and they sort of come to a medium point, which I think has suited everybody quite well.
So, in terms of the Israeli complex that we have, could a guy like Gil work in America as like top musician like everybody else?
Well, I think definitely so. I think he's absolutely an amazing musician, and it all depends on how he wants to do it and what he wants to do. I think he should stick where he is right now. That's about your best. That's the best road I can see.
What do you see for the future of Achinoam and Gil and Asher and the project?
That's a tough question, but I would say it all depends on the record company. I think the album's a great album, and I think if people get a chance to hear it and really understand what has happened here and what she's doing, it'll be a huge success. I think a lot of the responsibility will weigh on how the record company, pushes the album and gets it out to the people to hear. If the people hear it, they're going to love it. You cannot love this record.
If it was your responsibility, how would you market it? I mean, in what direction?
I think, well, I'm not a strategist at marketing, so I'll take a shot at it. But I think I would try to market her sort of as a broad-based, song-oriented, not folk, not pop, but just a very, can appeal to a 14-year-old or a 64-year-old. She's not a generation person. She's sort of a multi-generation person. And I think if they market it that way, where she's accessible to everybody, and that's really, that's her strong point.
Thanks a lot.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
כן. כן.
Sorry, specify that.
Better, where's the car?
The car
Give her
is
the car or whatever.